welcome to yet another episode of Screen Surfers. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew Sorsdahl.
I'm Francois Nation, and this week, actually, I think we saw 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we saw the new Jurassic World movie. Don't be too frightened. It wasn't really worth writing home about.
Yeah, in a word, underwhelming.
Yeah, fuck. I don't know. Like, so, walking out of this movie, my significant other and myself, big dinosaur fans, kind of got together in the first place due to dinosaur-related gubbins. I've always liked dinosaurs when I was a kid. I wanted to be a paleontologist, so I was like 15 years old. So dinosaur-related anything always gets my attention. Recently, there was a show that I've mentioned on this show before called Prehistoric Planet, which was really phenomenal. Yeah, and I highly recommend going and watching that if you want a dinosaur fix. But it's like the point is like shit that has the word dinosaur in it or prehistoric in it has always gotten me excited. Always going to look forward to it. And specifically with the Jurassic movies, it's something that Amy and I have like made a note of like, oh, there's a new one coming out. We're going to make sure we go see it on day one and like getting pumped up for it. And we've gotten fucking burned the last 2 times. And yeah, I'm sick of bad Jurassic World movies, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as big of a dinosaur fan as you, but dinosaurs. Who doesn't like dinosaurs? Pretty cool. Pretty universally, I would say, at least in somewhat enjoyed or generally seen as kind of cool dinosaurs. And yeah, this one was just, the fundamentals were just not there in terms of like a good story. Just, no. And like, I don't go to see a fucking dinosaur movie. I don't go to see a dinosaur movie about fucking bugs.
Yeah.
Fuck you for making a dinosaur movie about fucking bugs.
It's so bizarre too, because like the director of this movie, Colin Trevorrow, he directed Jurassic World, the first Jurassic World movie, not Jurassic Park, but the first of the new Jurassic World.
The one that was actually pretty good.
The one that I quite enjoyed. That I thought kind of, it seemed like that one understood what Jurassic Park was and why it was, or for the most part at least, it understood why it was interesting. It had some really bland human characters, but like I can excuse that to a degree because the dinosaur stuff was,
and the action was good. The dinosaur stuff was cool. Yeah.
And he was supposed to direct Episode 9 of Star Wars and wrote a whole script for it, and that got canned, and that didn't end up happening. But like he seemed like a guy that understood Jurassic Park at least. And then like I've been looking at some interviews with him about this movie that just came out, and it's so weird because like he talks about this movie as the way he talks about it, it's as if he's talking about a different movie that's like seems to be showing all this reverence for Jurassic Park. And it's like, why when you speak it seems like you're saying all the right things, but then in the movie that I watched it feels so soulless and like you didn't understand the point at all. It's really sad because like in this movie they brought back the cast from, or like the main cast from Jurassic Park, like
which I thought was a great sign too. Yeah, it was like a cool thing that they were doing.
Oh yeah, it's very very much. It kind of felt like when you saw the Episode 7 trailer and you saw Han and Chewie, and you were like, "Oh baby, this is good. This is all the nostalgia notes. Like let's get back to the OGs. Hopefully they do it justice." And I felt like Episode 7. I'm not going to speak about Episode 8 or Episode 9, but I felt like Episode 7 at least did a really good job of like honoring those characters and bringing them back in a cool way and like feeling good about it. Like I left that one.
Despite its problems, I think it did that really well.
Yeah, like, and at least when that one came out, it was like we were all hopeful for the future rather than like immediately like, oh god, they just fucked it right away.
Yeah.
Whereas with this one, they brought back the original cast and it felt like such a fucking wasted potential. It felt like there were these slight plot threads from Jurassic Park that like nobody even really gave a shit about, but it's like they were like, we need to address all these plot threads that nobody ever asked anybody to address. And I don't know, like I don't know. I guess like the best way to say it is like you said, it's like they took a movie that's supposed to be about dinosaurs, like that's the whole premise, which is a super great interesting thing, and you can do a lot of stuff with dinosaurs because they're giant lizards.
And then furthermore, just because like they also like they took that like movie about dinosaurs, and then also this movie they set it up. It's like dinosaurs are so much a part of our world now that it's like they're just everyday creatures again, which could be interesting.
Yeah.
And then instead of leaning into that or doing something interesting with that, they and then
do anything with it.
Yeah, do anything with it.
It's like it's so bizarre because it's like it starts decently strong. It starts with the dinosaurs in our world, and
the opening was pretty decent.
Yeah, it shows like a fisher boat getting destroyed by a mosasaur, and it shows all this like found footage of how the dinosaurs are interacting with our world. And there's this like emotional scene.
People feeding dinosaurs like they're like little dinosaurs by the river, and
there's this emotional scene at the beginning where it's like this girl helps like an apatosaur, like a long neck dinosaur, like leave this construction area, and it's kind of nice, and it hit a pretty good note or whatever. But then immediately it's like, okay, we're not doing that at all. There's another park for some reason. Though we don't really explain how it works. There's a magical barrier that stops the flying dinosaurs from escaping, and we put microchips in their brains so none of them want to escape. And this is where the whole movie's going to take place.
It was like conservation. It was the idea.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Preserve.
But it's like in essence,
another park.
It's another fucking park. It's like and
the whole thing was like this new company Biosyn, which whatever. Don't even get me started on that. Biosyn is trying to take the prehistoric genome and use it for all these medical and whatever different applications. And that's why they're doing this preserve to help keep the dinosaurs and people safe.
Yeah.
But then they're also like, oh yeah, just give the big company autonomy over this genome. That nothing bad's gonna happen there.
There's this fucking stupid ass scene. I kind of want to like, sorry, spoilers, but it's like
spoilers don't count with shitty
this
movies.
movie isn't even worth it. There's this stupid scene at the beginning where Andrew was talking about these bugs, and it's like, so a big plot thread of the movie is like there's these prehistoric genetically modified locusts that are like destroying crops all over the place. And there's this dumb fucking scene at the beginning where it's like one of our original characters, Ellie Sattler, I think that's her last name, like the
Sattler,
Laura Dern's character from the OG.
Mm-hmm.
She shows up to this farm to like check out this damage the locusts have been doing, and then it's like there's one damaged field and there's this perfectly preserved field right next to it, and then she like looks and she's like, "Were you guys planting the same crop?" And it's like, obviously fucking not, because locusts don't care. Why would they leave a straight line? Dumb question, but whatever. Okay, or were you guys planting the same crop? And it's like, no, we weren't. That's Biosyn's crop. And then it's like, I wonder if Biosyn is behind this. Yes, the answer is yes. Obviously, yes.
Like, there was zero question.
Like, what other explanation could there possibly be for this fucking locust not eating this perfectly one crop? It's just dumb. So, like, right off the bat, there's no tension or mystery or anything. You know immediately that's like, okay, Biosyn did this really bad thing, bad company.
And then on top of that, when they eventually do like the reveal the Biosyn guy and like the scientist are like talking about it, it's a fucking side project. It's not even like their main thing. It's like, we just thought we'd fuck around with this and see. It's like, fuck around and find out. It's like, you don't like, first of all, you're these like super intellectual big company like scientists, and you can't fucking think forward a little bit to how that might go terribly wrong.
It's like why? Because they do mention like they want to like fix human diseases, right? Like cancer and stuff.
But that's their main thing.
Yeah,
that's what they
say. But it's like that's never really a plot. They never explain how or why or how that's a thing.
They just say there's a line in the movie where they're like, we have already made advancements in these areas treating these different diseases.
One thing these movies do, and Jurassic World did this as well, and I thought it was weird. It's like they treat side characters from Jurassic Park as if they're Han Solo or Indiana Jones. It's like they had what's his fucking name, the main biological scientist in the first one. He's the oh my goodness, I just played a video game with it. Anyways, one of the main scientists from the first Jurassic Park movie. He has like a very brief, like one line in Jurassic Park. And then in Jurassic World, they're like, oh, we're going to bring back this legacy character as if anybody gave a fuck about him. And it's like...
And he's like a main character.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, whatever. It didn't bother me in that movie. It's like, that's fine. It's weird that you guys are treating him as if it's this huge deal that he's in this movie. He was never really a character. And then this movie, they did it fucking again. There's Dotson from Jurassic Park, who's like in a joke scene, basically, where it's like, Dotson, we got Dotson here. Everybody remembers that scene because it's funny with the fucking shaving cream. And then in this movie, he's the main villain. They're like, oh, everyone's going to love that we tied back this guy from the original. It's like,
Yeah.
Whatever, it's fine. You tied him back, but it's just
it wasn't compelling.
Yeah,
it wasn't
like,
compelling in any way.
I don't care. I don't care about you drawing these really weird connections to Jurassic Park.
Drawing those weird connections isn't the same as making a compelling villain or having a compelling character.
Yeah, and also
just because
sucked. Yeah,
just because there's like there's that arguably interesting connection doesn't equal a good character or a good.
It just didn't.
Anything.
It rings false to me. It's like this guy who in Jurassic Park was like a lackey basically to get DNA out of Jurassic Park. Like, but he's got a lackey. He's a lackey, and he's got a lackey, and like that's his whole thing. It's like it's a stretch for me to imagine this guy has such ambition that he's going to become the head of that same company. It's like maybe sure, it's not like a huge plot thread. It's just like it rings. It seems to me more like, hey, this is a recognizable name from the first one, and that's why we're doing this, rather than this is like, this really works for our story, and this is like great or whatever. I
Flash over substance.
It's like, it's one of those things where had the movie as a whole been quite good, that wouldn't bother me at all. But because the movie's so bad around it, it's annoying. I gotta mention just like how underutilized the dinosaurs in this movie. They're never a part of the like, okay, so Blue's a raptor from Jurassic World or whatever, and then this one it's like Blue's got a kid, and then the kid gets kidnapped, so then, but that doesn't even matter, because it's like they don't go to save Blue's baby raptor, they go to save
the human clone,
the little girl,
yeah,
and then it's like saving the little baby raptor is just sort of like a side thing to do. So it's like that's the dinosaurs don't even matter in that regard, because they're not there for that. Because if they were, that would be fucking stupid, because who would risk their life to save a little baby raptor for that wouldn't make sense. And they knew that, so they had to give like an actual reason for the human beings to be in this stupid park.
The dinosaurs literally only exist as we have to get from this point to that point. Oh no, there's a whatever-a-saur there.
Yeah.
And then they do this a bunch.
Yeah. That's the one trick they got.
They got this. And then they run around, and then just as they get to the door, the dinosaur almost gets them. It's like, whoa, that was close. And it's like, how many times can you do that trick in the same movie?
There's so many things that annoy me about this movie, but one of the things, like, it's like Jurassic Park did really well, or like it was, they sold it, was the fact that it's like, this is a paleontologist on this mission, and the reason that he has the dinosaur knowledge that he has, and the reason that he's able to give everyone advice about what to do in whatever situation is
he's an expert.
Because he's an expert on it. It makes sense. You're like, you buy it. It's like, don't move in front of the T-Rex. It's like, oh, that's the latest science we have, and like, so that it all clicks. In this movie, it's like the only interesting thing they ever did in Jurassic World with any of the characters in like the original Jurassic World was the fact that Chris Pratt can sort of control the raptors, and it was like he has this
training
weird,
them.
he has this like lion tamer type relationship with them, where it's like he's not in control, but he can like,
there's respect or something there.
And it's because he raised them from the time they were like born, so like that all works. But there's no character development, none of that. We don't give a fuck about them as people. So it's like in this movie, they were like, is there anything interesting about these characters? There's one interesting thing. It's the fact that Chris Pratt does this. So I think there's like 3 different instances where 3 different characters do that. Not just to the raptors, which we've established is kind of a thing, but to like big fucking dinosaurs and like little ones, and like just at total random dinosaur, like they established in Jurassic World that it's like it took him years and years and years from the time the raptors were born. He had to like
train with them and imprint on them.
Yeah, he had to imprint and like whatever behavioral training. But in this one, it's like, oh, I guess all the dinosaurs sort of respond this way, even though they've never like ran into this. People who have never been trained to do this kind of shit
just need to do this weird back and forth motion with their hands
that you think is this really technical, like you have to be very precise about your placements and like where your situational awareness is. No, it's just a little girl can do it too, and that's fine, and it works, and it's great, and it totally just takes away any of the mystery and coolness about that in Jurassic World, the one interesting thing in Jurassic World. I like you said, it's like the dinosaurs exist solely so that it's like characters running from point A to point B. Random dinosaurs just show up without explanation as to why it's there, how it got there. There's so many instances in this movie where dinosaurs are in places where I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. There's a part where they're on a big ice lake, and then randomly there's a raptor there, and you're just like, why is there a raptor on this ice lake? Why would it ever be here? It doesn't make any sense. And that's not terribly egregious, but it just feels random. Then there's this hyperloop in the movie that they use to transport around this park. It's massive
underground
preserve, And at one point, a guy gets stuck in this tube which is underground. No, you can't really access it. Think about a Hyperloop or like a subway. You can't. It's hard to access subways. He has to leave the subway into the tube, and there's 3 fucking what are they called? Dilophosaurus, I think. Dilophosaurus in there with him, and they kill him. And it's
for
like,
those that aren't dinosaur nerds, that's the spitting ones.
yeah, it's like how
things.
how did these get in here? You can't do this to me. You can't just bloody fall. What the heck? Oh no, wrong camera. Fallen Kingdom did this as well. There's a scene at the beginning when the volcano's going off, and they run into this building to like shut off some bullshit. And this baryonyx just walks into the fucking where they are, and it's like it makes no fucking sense that the baryonyx is in here. Why would it ever go in here? And why specifically when these people are here? It seems just so convenient and so random. And this movie just did it. It was like, we don't give a fuck about that. It's like, we're just going to do it every single interaction. Yeah. The dinosaur's going to come in. It's going to have little to no threat. We're going to set them up as if they're scary, but then they're going to basically run away and they'll be fine.
No one ever gets even injured by a dinosaur, really? Like,
no. Yeah.
The stakes, like, on the surface, the stakes are like high. It's like, oh, we're trapped with these dinosaurs. Then you peel back even just a tiny layer and it's like, oh, the stakes are actually not at all high. They always get away. There's zero intrigue. There's no mystery. We know exactly what's going to happen more or less throughout the whole movie. Everything, the entire plot, it entirely relies upon coincidence and happenstance. They're just from a base fundamental level of like, what is good storytelling? How do you write an intriguing story? This movie just absolutely falls 100% flat.
Yeah, it's almost as if it was like, it's like somebody had a piece of paper and they're like, what could be a Jurassic Park movie? And they're like, well, what if there were genetically modified locusts? And the gang had to figure it out. It's like, yeah, that could be a Jurassic World movie. You're right. It's not fucking interesting. Like, of all the things you could have come up with, of the limitless palette of interest that is there with dinosaurs and that fucking, you have that brush to paint with. That's the best you can come up with. What the fuck? I have to mention bloody some of the character. There's one character they add in this movie. She's like a pilot. I gotta mention she's a gorgeous, like, she's beautiful. One of the most beautiful people I've ever seen. Just I noticed that during the movie. But her character, her in that movie, so fucking stupid. Like, not okay. I won't say stupid. Really cartoony. It's like they took. She's a pilot, I feel like Jurassic Park was never like hyper cartoony and hyper stylized. It was always like, I believe that these characters are this way. But she's like a pilot that wears a bomber jacket and she's flying a World War II plane. And it's like, this is dumb. People don't do this. No one exists in the real world.
Would you be surprised that her dad was a pilot?
Oh yeah.
And it was all about like, yeah, it's
and
like,
then she randomly has dinosaur knowledge. She's randomly this expert about all these dinosaurs. Like, you've never established why she has this knowledge.
I mean, it's a stretch, but she's been transporting stuff for Biosyn, I guess.
It's
so
like,
by osmosis, she learned all this stuff.
If a semi driver was an expert in corn because he transports corn, it's like, maybe, sure, maybe. I don't like, but it's not even that. I would understand a passing whatever, but she's like, that's a Giganotosaurus. It existed from this period. It was the world's largest. Like, why do you know all of these really specific things? Like, just establish, just say that my dad was a paleontologist, or just I studied to be a paleontologist, just anything, so that I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, you somehow have some relational. It was one of those things where it felt like we want a cool Indiana Jones pilot who's super cartoony, doesn't fit in the Jurassic World. And there's another character. There was this woman who was evil and she wore this white dress.
Yeah, like the go-between between Biosyn and like the criminal element.
She was also hyper cartoony, and it was like,
and
why?
Was in the movie for like 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
Like, seemed so. The one thing that was cool, I will say, just to kind of go off on a bit of a tangent, even though it didn't make like the whole notion of the dinosaurs that attacked people based on the laser tag. That alone was cool, even though it didn't make any sense. It was cool. I will say.
Because you didn't see Fallen Kingdom.
No, I didn't.
So they did that in Fallen Kingdom.
Okay,
But it was this really... It's a scene that a lot of people made fun of, and rightfully so, because the way that they presented it in Fallen Kingdom was like, they created this new raptor called the Indoraptor, and it was this deadly creature. And so then a guy was like, okay, you can tell it what to attack with this laser. So a guy then points a gun with the laser on it, and he's like, okay, attack that thing. And then immediately it's like, you had a gun on the thing. Shoot the thing. Like, why? If you have the time and effort to like point a laser at something so accurate,
shoot it. Yeah.
Why can't you just shoot it?
They
want it dead.
They
Why?
definitely presented it better in this one because if I had I known that, it wouldn't have been.
It was quicker. Like
Yeah.
you didn't have as much, and they didn't do it with a fucking gun.
She just had like a laser.
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. But it's like even there's a scene you're talking about with these what are they called? The cool name. They're called Atrociraptors, and they're fucking dope. But she points the laser at these people or whatever, and it's funny. Like it's these 6 guys who are after her because they want to arrest her, and they all have pistols, guns, and they corner her, and they're like, okay, hey, freeze, put your hands up. And then she fucking points the laser at them and she releases the raptors. And then all of a sudden, all these guys forget they have fucking guns in their hands. Say, I'm sorry, I get like conservation or whatever, but if a great white shark is gonna fucking eat you, you have every right to shoot that motherfucker in the head. You don't need like
South Park makes an entire joke like it's coming right for us.
Yeah, I couldn't. That scene, because they do it several times where it's like a guy is literally like this with a gun in his fucking hand, and he's like, God, don't fucking. God, don't get me raptor. And it's like
if only there was something I could do.
Fucking savior, shoot it in the leg. I don't do anything. It's a fucking flesh and blood creature. One bullet from a 9mm handgun will put it down. Like it was. I don't know. There's so much in that movie. The biggest sin in that movie, obviously, is the fact that it's a movie about dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs are not an essential part of the plot
at all.
At all. They brought back the fucking original cast, super underutilized, even though they're probably the best part of the whole movie.
Yeah, I would say like the one thing that doesn't suck about this movie, like the acting is pretty like
I would agree.
for what they're given. Like it was
absolutely
good. Like the actors are not the problem here.
Yeah.
Across the board, even the new characters, like I would say none of that's the problem. The shit that they were given, they did their best to sell it.
Absolutely. Bryce Dallas Howard did fantastic. Chris Pratt did fantastic.
Yeah.
The original 3 did great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a movie. The biggest failing in this movie, I would say, is the writing, hands 100%. Down. The script is just uninteresting, dross that it's like,
fucking
who the fuck
shit.
did this? I don't know if I can hit the directing too hard. I mean, the director is the writer-director, but there are a lot of scenes too where I was watching where I'm like, Jurassic Park was always really good about giving you a sense of awe, and like the way they shot things and the way they constructed
was
scenes.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
Like,
yeah,
tension growing and all this stuff. This movie, I never felt tense.
No.
I never felt like there was any awe to be had.
No.
I never just. It just like
the only scene I can point to as being kind of interesting was the chase scene in that city when they tried to get to the plane and like being chased by the raptors. It was like it had a lot of problems, but if I had to pick a scene that was like what was a cool scene from that movie, I'd be like, that scene's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah. I still, it's so weird in that scene. It's like so it's like Chris Pratt on a motorcycle and he's like getting chased by raptors, and then there's these other two that you think that we're being chased by raptors, but then they're not being chased by raptors, and then they gotta like take off in this airplane, but they get to the airplane and there's no raptors harassing them by the time they're at the airplane. Like they're fine.
Well, except for Chris Pratt.
Well, Chris Pratt's getting chased, but the two that are at the airplane aren't getting chased. And then the two that are at the airplane who aren't getting chased and don't know what situation Chris Pratt is in because they're not in communication at all. They're like, we need to start taking off now. We need to get out of here. And it's like, well, why? Because nothing is chasing you. Whatever. And then, but they're all taking off. And she's like, he'll be here. And it's like, how the fuck do you know that? You have not been in communication with him at all. You don't know that he's on a motorcycle. He doesn't know where you are.
Another great example of just totally coincidence based happenstance, not actual well-written, character-driven shit.
So, I guess like to wrap this up, because we've probably been on way too long, but it's like this is a movie that really deserves to not. This movie is a shit on movie. Like it's just like not.
It's the first one we've done that's like an absolute shit on this movie.
Yeah, it's just
don't go see it. Don't give them your money. Only watch the first one.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, like the first in the new trilogy.
I see. Yeah, Jurassic World is for sure. But I guess that's the biggest criticism I can level at this is I really didn't like Fallen Kingdom. I had a lot of problems with it. I think that's not a good movie either. I think Fallen Kingdom is quite a bit better than Dominion. And I don't like Fallen Kingdom at all. Like I don't really have anything nice to say about it. But if you 10 out of 10 times, if you ask me which one would you rather watch, I would watch Fallen Kingdom every fucking time. At least Fallen Kingdom had a really talented director behind the helm and had a lot of really beautiful shots, which I can't say about Dominion. It's hands down the worst Jurassic Park movie in my mind. I don't think it's worth seeing in theaters. If you really want to see if you really have I know some people are like quite attached to the Jurassic World characters and like Blue and the Raptor or whatever, who's not really in the movie. But it's like, if you need to see this movie, wait till it's free on streaming and then check it out and cook while you're watching it.
Yeah,
it's not that interesting.
don't bother seeing it in theaters. We should come up with a name for a movie when it's a total like fucking shit show like this.
A waste of fucking celluloid.
Like a whatever, I don't know, like a stinker is not exactly. It is a stinker, but that seems like we need our own brand. We'll workshop it. Whatever that name is. Hopefully we don't have to come across too many of these, but whatever that is, this movie is that. It's fucking sucks.
This is what I'll say to make Brad happy. Jurassic World Dominion. Are you fucked?
Yes. Are you fucked?
Thanks very much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one, which is hopefully more positive. We like to like things. We don't like to hate things.
Yeah, I don't like
This is a bad movie.
I don't like shitting on stuff, but this movie deserves to be shit on.
All right, thank you very much. We'll catch you later.